morning, everybody. Guys, as usual, just once again touching on the tips to prevent COVID-19. Always wear a mask when you're out in public. Wash your hands with soap or sanitizer. Avoid touching your face. Stay away from people who are sick and practice social distancing. Cover your sneeze or your cough with a flexed elbow or a tissue. And clean and disinfect frequently used surfaces and objects. As we've seen, the numbers are coming down, but they are still very high. So please, guys, exercise caution with yourself, your staff, and your family. All right, let's get into it. Today, I wanted to speak about navigating uncertain times. At the moment in South Africa, we're going through quite a lot of stuff. And it's really a challenging situation for, I think, everybody in the country. Particularly with all the goings on in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. But in general, it's really difficult times in South Africa. And I suppose, like most of you, it's driving me a little bit crazy. And sometimes I feel like my head wants to explode. So I thought I'd just speak a little bit about some things to help us just get through these difficult times. And we will get through it in the end, but sometimes we just need to think about things a little bit differently to help us get through these very difficult times. So first and foremost, I think the important thing is to acknowledge the reality of the situation. Don't stick your head in the sand like the ostrich and pretend that there's nothing going on, but be real about what's actually happening. And more importantly is to acknowledge your own fears, your emotions, your anger, and all those sort of things, because it's okay to feel that way. It's human to feel that way. And when we suppress those emotions and those fears and anger and those sort of things, it builds up within ourselves. And sometimes it can even make you sick, but it just builds up and it gets too much to bear. So I always like to remember the serenity prayer. It is used very often in various different programs, but I think it's a great prayer to remember in times like these. And the serenity prayer goes, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I think it's a really important thing to bear in mind, and you'll see it coming through in the theme of this presentation. One of the important things that we really need to do is to separate what is real from what is fake news. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's a lot of fake news and a lot of people spread these false stories and try and make situations seem much bigger and much worse than they are. So take some time just to understand what is real and what is fake news, what is people just spreading all sorts of rumors and things for very often, sadly, for a political agenda. But whilst we're being real, we shouldn't be focusing on the negatives. So understand what is real and look for the positives in any situation. Don't focus on the negatives, because you can get trapped into a really negative spiral, a downward spiral. Think about, how does this situation really affect me, my family, my business, or those close to me? And very often it doesn't actually affect you, and it doesn't have a personal impact on you. So if you focus on that, then you get trapped in this negative spiral when it doesn't really have a massive impact on you personally. Once you've done that, we need to have a look at what is the important stuff. So if you see the picture on the screen there, the things that matter and the things that we control intersect at a certain point. And that's what we should be focusing on, the important things. What is really, really important to you? Is it your family? Is it your health? Is it your friends? Is it your business or your community? Or what is really important to you? And focus on that stuff as opposed to all the negative information and the negative messaging that's coming out in the country. Thirdly, we need to stay in the present. So many of us, and this is something I personally struggle with, is I'm quite a future-focused person. And so A lot of people are focused in the past, and what we need to work at is staying present, being in the moment that you are right now. So don't worry about the future or the past, because you can't really impact those things. So focus on the moment where you are right now, because this is where you actually can make an impact, where you'll find your creativity and your joy, and the beauty of the moment is in the present. We only have this moment right now. So why waste it? Be present in the moment. Be present when you're spending time with your family or your friends. Be present with them at that moment in time. Don't focus on the past. Certainly don't worry about the future. Fourthly is to be yourself. So very often we compare ourselves to others. We look at how others do. We look at maybe the nice car that they drive, or they seem to be happy, or they're richer than us, or they're more successful than us. Don't compare yourselves to others. You are not them. Just be the best version that you can of yourself. Certainly learn from what others do, but don't compare yourself to them. They're in a very different situation to you. And comparing yourselves to others can set you up for failure, because they're in a different space. They might be older, they might have a different education, they might have a different family background, they might have a different financial position to you. So just learn from them, but look at yourself and be the best of yourself. Remember, you've got different strengths, you've got different weaknesses, emotions, goals, different values. You're in a different financial position. You've got different skills to them. So don't set yourself up for failure by comparing yourself to the Joneses. Be grateful. This is something that's spoken about quite often, and it's something that's actually quite difficult to do on a consistent basis. But when you do practice gratitude in your life, you're reminded of the blessings and the opportunities that surround you. All of us have got good stuff that goes on in our lives every day. And when we're focusing on the negative all the time, we sometimes forget to be grateful for the really awesome stuff that we have. The interesting thing about practicing gratitude is that the more you focus on those things, the more of them that you will receive. The more you focus on how great your family is, or how well your business is doing, or how well you're doing at some or another sport, or whatever, the things that you're grateful for, the more of that you'll receive. Because what occupies your mental and spiritual focus will actually show up in your everyday life. The more you focus on the negative, the more negative you'll get. The more you focus on the positives, the more positive things will appear in your life. Your thoughts are a really powerful force. So be careful and be intentional and strategic about where you put your focus and the things that you spend time on. Focus on those positive things that you really can be grateful for. And they can be small things, it doesn't matter. There's a lot each and every single one of us can be grateful for every day. Remember to be kind. So even though all of us are going through this together, we sometimes forget that other people are maybe having a difficult time, or that other people are going through their own stuff. You know, even those people we spoke about earlier that might on the surface seem to be doing really well, they're going through their own stuff. So remember that all of us are going through this situation in South Africa together. So first and foremost, be kind to yourself. We're only human, and we do make mistakes, and very often we are worst critics, and we're very hard on ourselves when it comes to getting things wrong. So understand that you're going to make mistakes, and that you should learn from those mistakes and be able to move forward. But just be kind on yourself and understand that you are going to make errors, And things are going to go wrong from time to time, and allow yourself to make those mistakes, because that's where you learn the most. Be kind to your family. You need them and they need you, because at the end of the day, who's going to be there for you? It's going to be your family. Friends come and go, colleagues come and go, the businesses come and go, but your family is your family, and they're really important, and they need you. They need you to be present. They need you to be upbeat. They need you to be strong. So remember to be kind to them, because as much as they need you, you need them. Our staff, in these difficult times, very often we don't realize all the things that our staff are going through. Sometimes they're going through far worse things than we're going through. So I'm not saying give them a free pass to perform poorly, not at all. But remember that they're also struggling. So, just bear that in mind, and be kind to your staff. And then our community, whether it be the community where you live, or the environment, or just people in general that are in need, do something good for the community or the environment. Not only will it make you feel great, and it really does make you feel great, but you help the community and you uplift the community. And when you're in a strong community, and we've seen that, look at KZN, where people really, and Gauteng, where people came together during these terrible, terrible times. People came together, they stood together, shoulder to shoulder, men, women, black, white, old, young. People came together, and that sense of community and that strength in the community really brings people together, and brings a positive energy to what very often is a negative situation. So think about doing something for others, doing something for your community or your environment. It really, every small little bit makes a difference. And then lastly is to look after your well-being. We very often forget this in difficult times, and we forget to look after our health. When you're healthy, when you're fit and you're strong, especially during a time of pandemic, you're much better able to deal with these things. Exercise forms a very big part of this. Exercise is a stress reliever, and it releases endorphins in our body that gets us feeling good. Eating healthy will give us more energy and make us feel stronger and healthier and more able to deal with these things. So please don't forget to look after your health. Very often what happens in difficult times is, I suppose me, like a lot of other people, is you just tend to work harder and work harder and work longer and work harder and put in more, and you forget to look after your health. So please don't forget, take a couple of minutes to exercise, take a couple of minutes to make yourself a healthy meal instead of grabbing a takeaway or something like that. And then take care of your spiritual health. This is, again, something that we neglect, especially in these modern times, is we all have a spiritual needs, and however you practice that, however you practice your religion, or whether it's meditation or whatever it is make sure that you take some time to achieve some sort of spiritual fulfillment, whatever that is for you and however that looks like for you. I believe it's a very personal thing. And then manage your finances. This becomes, again, one of those things that becomes extremely challenging during uncertain and difficult times like this. But we're often tempted in these times to make silly, impulsive purchases. I remember a couple of years ago, I got hijacked. It was a particularly nasty hijacking. And the morning after the hijacking, my family and I went out to the shops, and we bought so much rubbish. I nearly said another word. But we just spent money. It was actually crazy. And that often happens, actually, is you try and feel better through material things. But what it does is it actually puts you in a difficult financial position. So consider your finances. You don't want those additional worries and headaches from being in a difficult financial position. So just remember that when you're tempted to go and buy that big flat screen TV or the fancy, super expensive cell phone, it's not going to fulfill you. Consider your emotions. Again, I said it earlier, it's okay to feel the way you do. And it's okay to have moments of weakness. And here again, your family is super important. But acknowledge your emotions, acknowledge what you're going through. It's not a sign of weakness. We all have these emotions. Some of us just suppress them, and then they build up within us, and they can cause sickness, and they can cause us to explode or lash out at some point. So consider your emotions, be real with your emotions, and deal with the things that are affecting you. The social side of things, again, this is a little difficult during COVID times, but we are human beings. We are social creatures. We do need human interaction. So make some time and make some space to safely get together with friends or family in small groups now during COVID, and to really just have a good time, have a chat, have a laugh, maybe have a drink or something like that, and just enjoy yourself with some friends and family, because we really are social creatures. And at this time, especially, where a lot of us are working from home, or a lot of us are quite isolated and steering clear of people to be COVID safe, it is important to touch base with family. So that might be a phone call, it might be a Zoom call, or anything like that. But we need social interaction. So take care of that within the COVID limitations, and make sure that you at least having some social interaction. So basically, guys, what I'm trying to get across to everybody is that we really are, really going through very challenging times in South Africa. It really is difficult, and it's affecting a lot of us. I know that often last week I was feeling extremely angry and frustrated, and just had this whole sense of discomfort as to what is going on in the country and the world. But what we've got to realize is that if we pull together, if we work together, we will get through this. And I was reminded of stories my grandmother used to tell me of the Second World War, when she was living in the UK, and the things that they went through. And I was reminded of that over this week, thinking sometimes we feel like we'll never get through this and it'll never get better, but it will. So just a little recap: acknowledge the reality of the situation that we're in. Focus on the important stuff, what's important to you. Stay present, stay in the moment. Don't live in your head. Don't live in the past or worry too much about the future. Be yourself. Be the best that you can be. Be grateful for what you have, because you actually have a lot to be grateful for if you look for it. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others, and look after your well-being. Guys, we will get through this. It's really difficult times. We often feel like we want to give up and feel like it doesn't matter, but we will get through this, and the sun will rise again, and things will be better at some point in the future. So let's stay positive. Let's keep working towards getting through this, and we'll get through this together. Thank you, guys. Short and sweet, but I hope that was in some way helpful to you. Steve, I don't know if you would like to say a word or two.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan. I think, I can convey, what you've said. Obviously being down here and quite in the midst of what's been going on in KZN and the stresses. And I think, I concur with what you've said. And I think, just in terms of the camaraderie that we've had, because there's been people that have got us through this. There's always that phone call from somebody just to lift you up. And, sometimes it's to relook at things. I mean, in that time, just a simple thing like a loaf of bread that we take for granted, that you can't get. Seeing other people that are just as bad, if not worse, than where you are. So I think it's just pulling yourself up with the straps. And if I've learned something, it's been, don't sweat the small things. I think for me, it's been a relook at myself. I mean, I was stressed to the hilt, minimum sleep, running around and, the vans and patrolling and doing different things. But it's to look at it and relook at life in terms of putting things into perspective. Those little things that used to worry us doesn't help. I mean, for the lack of sleep and everything else, but it's, to come through it, be better and in support. And, we had a lot of that, from our team and the plumbers, was just that phone call, how are you? I mean, I'll relate one story and I won't mention the guy's name, but I received a phone call at about 10:30 from an African guy that was one of our members that we were working for, to ask me how we were. And, I was like blown away. And, I said, and how are you? And he had lost, I think, 7 businesses, in shopping centers. And, that puts things into perspective. He took the time to phone me to see how I was. And yet he was going through so much in his own personal capacity. So it's that type of camaraderie and that type of support that you have, even though others are going through worse things than you are, is taking the time and just sharing it and knowing that you're not alone. And I think for me personally, through that trying week and whatever, how many days it was those phone calls, just the, how are you, anything that we can do. And you felt that you weren't alone. So I think, South Africans are resilient. We will get through this. And again, it's just, as you said, putting all of those things into perspective and making sure that we do look after family, that we do look after ourselves, and we do take that time out to be able to just smell the roses, if we want to call it that. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Steve. Guys and ladies, keep your spirits up. We will get through this. Hang in there. Remember the couple of tips that I've given you. Hopefully they're helpful to you. And be kind to yourself and your family, and we'll get through this. Thank you, everyone.